our beautiful friends, our Dr. Humans, and welcome back to the potty. Christine and I have a special gift for you today. You're going to want to stop what you're doing, pull out your phone, and start typing in CCIMFIFTY, CCIM50. That code is going to get you $50 off your ticket to the Creative Careers in Medicine conference this August in Melbourne. Now, this is not a sponsored video, but we're dropping this podcast in here today because we know that so many of you guys in our audience are like us. You are medicine plus people. Yes, medicine might mean so much to you. It might mean everything to you. It might be an enormous part of who you are, your personality, and your mission here in life. And also, we know from experience, from meeting you guys, from chatting with you guys, that a lot of you guys have something else, a little extra added something in your personality that makes you want to have life with medicine plus something else, something creative, something innovative. And the group Creative Careers in Medicine is exactly your community for that. This group is your community of support, of other people who get it. They're your inspiration. They're your solutions to your problems and just people to bounce house, as Christine and I like to say, bounce house all of the challenges and what ifs and dreams that come with being a creative and innovative person. So in this episode, we're going to play for you the podcast that Christine and I made after we attended the last Creative Careers in Medicine conference. In this episode, we give you 3 reasons why you should go to the CCIM conference, genuinely based off our recap of last year's conference. So if CCIM sounds like it might be the place that you have been looking for, then as Christine says, sit back, grab a cuppa, and enjoy this episode. You are welcome. Oh, and Christine and I will be at the conference. If you see us there, promise us, give us a heads up, let us know that you're looking for us and that you're gonna come and say hello. Comment down below and we cannot wait to meet you. Yay, this is one of the best parts of the conference giveaway. Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Dr. Beck.
And I am Christine Barker, and this is Am I Doing It Wrong? A podcast for doctors by doctors. Dr. Beck is a mindset coach and medical doctor who specialises in liberating driven professional women from the limitations of perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and people pleasing. She's basically the cheat code for getting out of your own way, showing up authentically, and living a life you're proud of.
And Christine is a medical educator and nephrologist who creates resources for doctors in training that I truly think are an unfair advantage. She makes complex topics super simple and takes the pain and uncertainty out of passing your medical exams. Christine and I connected a few years ago via our online platforms, and over the years we've discussed countless highs, lows, and in-betweens of doctor life. And in doing so, we've experienced firsthand the power of vulnerable conversations to show us where we're getting in our own way and underestimating our capacity.
So we want you to be part of the conversation and experience these same results. Every week on the pod, we'll be bringing you conversations which shine light in dark places, normalise the doctor journey, ease unnecessary suffering, and give you actionable steps to thrive in all facets of your life. So grab a cuppa and get cozy for this week's episode of Am I Doing It Wrong? The podcast for doctors by doctors.
All right, so today we are talking about, well, Christine and I are sitting down together today for the first time to record a podcast since we have been at the brilliant CCIM conference, the Creative Careers in Medicine conference. And this is the first time that both Christine and I, or either Christine and I, have been to one of these events. And we just wanted to dedicate a whole episode to it because we had an experience that was not only delightful, but one that we think would be of benefit and of interest to so many of you guys if you just knew that this space was available. So that is what we're going to talk about today. And we are feeling a bit hot off the press with this. And look, if anything, we're a bit worried that we're going to talk too much. So we're going to try and constrain ourselves to talk about 3 main points. Isn't that right, Christine?
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk about this conference for days. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience. It really, really was. So yes, 3 things. So what was your top thing, Beck?
Can we please start with the funny things?
Yes.
Can I start with my totally embarrassing? This is like worst nightmare stuff, guys. Okay. So you know how these days you meet so many people on the internet that, you know, you have this relationship with them long term. Like some people, you can have relationships for years over the internet with them before actually meeting them in person. And for me, this conference was this mega opportunity to suddenly have all of these people that I wanted to meet for so long in one hotel conference space. And brilliant, amazing, fantastic. However, there are some danger spots in this situation. And I can just remember, for whatever reason, in med school, when I was learning neuroanatomy, there's this place in your mind, there's this geographical area in your brain that is dedicated to recognizing objects, including faces. And I just looked up the name of it before because it was lost on me. What was it? It was the fusiform region, I think. Anyway, I have discovered that area in my brain is potentially atrophied. I don't think it's quite working properly, because two different people, and I'm scared that this is the minimum, two different people, my worst nightmare happened to, where they had come up to me and said, "Beck, I thought it was you." As in, we had crossed paths earlier in the day and my brain had not recognized them from the internet. So that was like my worst nightmare come true, that I was capable of just walking past somebody without actually putting together them as an internet person and them in real life. Oh, I'm so grateful that they came and said, "Hey, we didn't see each other before." Oh my gosh.
It's so easy done though. And I wonder, I would love to hear a neuroscientist perspective on that, because I've had that scenario before, even on like COVID, when I used to take medical students and I met them all online. And then I was like, oh, like I'm never going to remember their names and I'm really never going to remember their faces. And I was so surprised how I did manage to, but contextually, I knew they were going to be there. Whereas if I was just walking around the supermarket or somewhere, I would have no idea. I could bump into loads of people and have no idea. I just walk past them if I've never met them in real life. So I don't think you're alone there, but it's awkward as well when you're trying to, you know, it's people that you love, respect, maybe you've worked with closely even. And I know that you had someone in that situation who'd given you an opportunity, like you'd worked with them before at one of their, you did a talk at one of their events and things. And so it was weird, your brain just didn't click, but you actually really are fond of this person. So it was so funny.
There were things that my brain, because, you know, you see people just on a Zoom screen. And so you see them from the shoulders up, right?
Yeah.
And my brain had obviously filled in the gaps about certain things in terms of, I don't know, their height, or it was a hilarious and awful phenomenon to experience. But anyway, I'm so grateful for that they were bold enough to be like, "Hey, wait a minute. Let's chat."
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And my funny thing, oh God, well, so just to, I guess, fill people in, I was so privileged to be invited to do two creative things at the conference. So I was singing in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was singing. So that in and of itself is kind of funny. So we'll get to that in a second. And then I was talking in the afternoon about my education platform. But before Beck and I, we had a little apartment together and we were driving into the conference together. And I said to Beck, I was like, I'm quite worried because it's first thing in the morning that maybe my voice is going to, you know, it might not hold out. It's different to sing in the morning than later in the day, right? So I was a little bit nervous. And I said to Beck, like, "Oh, Beck, like if I'm struggling, can you come and support me? But if I'm doing really well, just ignore me, right?" Now, next thing, Beck rocks up having the time of her life, supporting me. And I'm like, oh God, I must be doing this really badly. And then I was like, no, I think it's going okay. But it was so funny because I started to have this internal like spiral because you looked as if you were enjoying yourself. And then the other funny thing about that was because Beck was sort of like dancing alone, supporting me because she's like the best friend in the whole world. But it was like this magnet for making friends. And it was like everyone kept coming up to you to be like, "Oh, hey, it's like a dancing girl." So we also discovered that Beck's dancing is such a great way to network and magnetize people would want to hang out with for the rest of the day. They were a vibe. So credit to your dancing.
I'm mortified by the fact that like whether I showed up to like support you now, it was either like it was both at the same time. It was like the best thing I could do. And the worst thing I could do. Oh, no, that means something bad's happening if she's supporting me. We didn't make a good game plan there. No.
No, it was not a successful game plan. It's sort of destined to fail, but yeah, it was quite funny.
Very funny. And actually, that beautifully leads us into the like dancing as networking. Beautifully leads us into one of the first things that we wanted to mention is so special about this conference that we recommend you guys. One of the reasons that we would recommend you come to this conference, which is this collapse of hierarchy that we experienced. And you put words to this, Christine. So would you mind speaking to this for a moment, this experience of the collapse of hierarchy?
Oh my goodness, that was one of my main take-home points. It was just this feeling of everybody being special, but nobody being special at all. And it's the only conference I've ever been to where I've had that experience. And even if you think about just going into the clinical environment to work, you don't have that experience. There is a hierarchy and there's all these layers of other I guess, conformity and how you should be and all of that. But the CCIM, it was just like everyone was just equal in some way. And I'm talking about there were some people in there who were brilliant and people who were on television regularly and stuff like that. But it didn't seem to matter because there was this lovely humility to it and they were very humble and you just felt as if you could approach anyone and have a beautiful conversation and you wouldn't be in any way rejected or shut down. You would just be entirely lifted up. I feel like it just selected for that type of person. And I felt so at home there. But yeah, that collapse of the hierarchy was profound. And without the hierarchy, it's just, I can't even describe, I'm trying to find the words for the experience of it because it's different. And it was happy, but there was also, I guess it laid the foundations for other things. Like I think the other thing that we wanted to talk about today was that networking can sometimes have this connotation, but networking there really just meant being excited and curious and almost you wanted to get to know people for what they were doing as an inspiration to yourself. You really weren't sort of, I guess, networking in a way to get anything from anyone, or you were more likely to be networking as in a curious, beautiful way, just to find out more about everyone else. It was, I guess, finding your people. It was really easy to do that because the hierarchy was collapsed. What would you say about that, Beck?
I completely agree. And I think even networking is probably the technical formal term for it. But as you're describing, it was really just a connection opportunity. That's all it was. It was that, I think we've ended up, many of you guys know that Christine and I became friends through the internet. And it's because we kind of poked our heads out many years ago now. We're like, this is me, this is what I'm doing. It's a bit different. But there aren't many people sort of in arm's reach otherwise that you can have that authentic, easy, natural connection with in this space when you're somebody who has that background as a doctor it means something about you and it creates certain characteristics in you and it gives you a certain view of the world. It is in many ways, not that it's your full identity, but it is a almost intrinsic part of you, a part of many of us. So to have that background as a doctor and then to have that extra layer, that extra differentiation point of being a creative person too, to have so many people like that in one space, you couldn't help but connect with people. It's almost like slam dunk. Any person you talk to, you're going to connect with just because they have those two kind of arms to who they are and what they prioritize in their life. And so as much as formally you'd be able to say that it's networking, it was just this really natural process of just meeting somebody and making a connection without even trying. And Christine and I have talked on previous episodes, and please listen to these episodes if you've previously had trouble networking or you find yourself comparing to people a lot or you feel like intimidated or threatened or you feel defensive around other people. We have episodes on the tall poppy syndrome and comparison. Most recently, we did an episode of comparison. That'll just be an episode or two previous to this. But, as you pointed out, it was sort of like everyone's special, but nobody's special. It's the cure for this tall poppy syndrome that we worry about, where in tall poppy, we find that people who stand out, whether they're, for being better, typically, classically in the tall poppy space, for being better in quotation marks, or just from being different, will often get cut down by the people around them because people don't like people being, quote, better than them, like seen as being better because it can make you feel worse about yourself. But then I think most importantly, almost to the point here for creative careers in medicine, a lot of people don't like you being different either. It scares people when you're different, or people don't understand you, or they're worried about you. They're like, oh my goodness, if you do that, that sounds a little bit crazy. Or are you sure that's going to work? You sure you're not going to get hurt? Are you sure that's a good idea? And so on and so on. And here, there wasn't that, and the interactions didn't flow that way. Nobody was judging what you were doing. Nobody was worried about what you were doing. Nobody was wanting you to be the same and not different there. And I think that created a really sort of free-flowing, undefended space to create these amazing connections.
Yeah. And I guess just expanding on that, it was also, you really couldn't fall into the comparison trap very easily because it would be like comparing apples to oranges. Like you understand that, like, oh, that person's doing something over there. And oh, they're so unique. And oh, I'm unique. And so you can't really compare because you're just not in the same box at all. It's just this lovely, everyone's floating around in their own little box and kind of allowing other people to expand them. But there's none of this kind of, I guess in medicine, there's categories, isn't there? Like I'm a nephrologist, or there's like GPs and you're in these categories. And then because you've been categorized, you can sort of see side by side, like there is a comparison that's really easy to do, but it's literally like you can't even find it. And I don't know what that experience would be for people maybe who were in the audience looking for inspiration, like not quite sure what their next steps are. I wonder what that experience would have been, but I still would imagine that you would understand your uniqueness, and if they can do it, you can do it, as opposed to worrying that you're not good enough, or worrying that the fact that you're there. And the other thing that the speakers really did, I thought, across the board, was that as they told you how they got to where they were or what they had to uniquely share, there was a lot of humility in the stories. There was a lot of failures and a lot of personal development, and like they kind of pulled back the curtains on the journey at large. And that was really beautiful as well, because I think that really helped to contribute to that lack of hierarchy and the leveling of everyone. Yeah, do you agree?
Completely agree. And I think actually that really beautifully leads us to our next reason that you should come to CCIM, or then another CCIM event, which is, as you were saying, if you try to compare yourself to other people, it'd be like comparing apples to oranges. And instead of there being this default of comparing yourself, everybody else, all these other people and all their different journeys with all their different strengths and celebrations, they just served as inspiration for us. There was so much inspiration in this conference, from everything from, the actual journeys that these people are on in terms of who they're impacting, the ways they're doing it, the ways they're getting funding, et cetera, to even the smaller details, like hearing, in terms of the operations of your business, people who are outsourcing things, getting personal assistance, and the ways in which they were doing that, all those little things as well. So in so many different areas, there was so much inspiration. Is that I think that was something that CCIM, I imagine, not that I know their core drivers, but I imagine the empowerment of people, but also the providing inspiration for people would be one of the core things that seems to have fueled this conference. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. And that was exactly my experience. Well, to be honest, the other thing that inspires me is hanging out with you, which I did on the Sunday. The beach walks with Beck, it's like inspiration 101, I must say. But I remember getting back on the plane and having the little booklet that CCIM gave me. It was like this little blank notebook, and I had so many ideas that I am going to keep so close to my chest for now, but so many ideas. And it was like they all just poured out of me. And it's funny how like I wasn't necessarily expecting that, it just, I guess, but when you've been in that space, in that container, it's like you can't help it. You can't help but bring the next step of your life to the next phase of your ideas to life when you've been somewhere like that. It's so organic, it's so beautiful. And the other thing that I thought was really, really special about it, or surprised me about it, was I guess I sort of thought I would go to that conference and meet a lot of people who left medicine. And as someone with a creative career in medicine, I find that I'm always having this tension of, like, if I succeed in my creative part of me, does that mean I have to get rid of my doctor part of me? Like, will there come a time where the two break and I have to be one or the other? Um, and that's something that I have to balance continuously. But at this conference, it was like there were a lot of people. Obviously, there were some people who had completely left medicine, but I'd say the vast majority of people were still working as doctors and they had this other thing. And it was almost like having this other thing. They were quite happy as doctors when they were talking about it. They had this, the part of them that was in clinical practice was wholeheartedly there. And then they had this other part. And that really surprised me because I really expected more people to have left medicine. Yeah. Did you come across that, Beck?
Absolutely. And I think that, if you are somebody who is feeling either burnt out or not quite fulfilled, or it's something you're not quite happy with your clinical medical career or academic, your medical career in whatever form it is right now, this would be a really good reason to consider attending some event like this or joining. They have a Facebook group and other things as well. Just to join in on a community like this, because sometimes our imagination is more limited than we realize. We could never come up with the different possibilities that are available to us from our limited experience. And as Christine was saying, there were so many examples of people doing this to different degrees in different forms, and to have the opportunity to just hear all these different examples. And also, if you wanted to, and ideally, if people are so open there, you can hear the pros and cons of these different approaches. People were open to talking about what they would have done, what they wish they didn't do, what they wish they did differently, what's working well, and what their next steps or next innovations are of things. And I just don't think you can read this stuff in books. It's not available. I don't think it's even on YouTube. At this point, there are a lot of people on YouTube, thank goodness, and thank you to all of them, talking about the pros and cons and helping you try and make decisions about how to make your medical career work for you. But there was something really special about having all of these N=1 examples of all these people who've done it in their own different ways and hearing their firsthand experience. It was like a goldmine. I mean, where else are you going to find so many rich experiences for so much inspiration of what you say, Christine? You say this is the yes and of life, that so often we get stuck in these limited beliefs and these false ideas, these false beliefs, these false thoughts that it's one or the other, that it's this or that. And this was one of your examples where you're like, no, wait, I've had it all wrong. This is wrong. It was just an error of me to think that it was an or. It was always an and. And you're so good at that in life. And that's obviously why you picked up on this at the conference, right? Because you're always looking out for how it can be an and instead of an or. And these people are such good examples. What about our new friend who we met? Oh my gosh, he's just an inspiration on so many levels too, and just such a vibe. You know who you are, a total vibe. He was like, what's a vibe? And he had this miraculous transformation in my mind. This is insane. That he said that he used to, when he was just doing his more traditional career in medicine, that he used to actively discourage his kids to going into medicine. And guys, I know a lot of us can relate to that. I actually don't know many of my colleagues who recommend or are encouraging their kids to go into medicine. What about you, Christine? It's very uncommon.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess if ever anyone like high school level comes into my like world and sort of says they want to be a doctor, I would definitely sit them down and just make sure they know what that means, because I don't think I really did know what that meant in reality. But I guess it's true that I think a lot of us become doctors and then we're actually quite unhappy at some points. And I know that a lot of people at that conference, and I mean, I speak for myself as well, is understanding if I did medicine full time, I wouldn't be happy. But that's because I've got this other facet of myself that needs to be expressed. And I think something that I did notice at the conference with some of the younger people I was talking to that were maybe an intern or even a med student still, they were saying, they were sort of at that place where they knew there was going to be something else and they were trying to work towards it, but they had this tension of I guess what that meant for them at this stage in their career. And so I guess I just wanted to add on that yes and concept here, because you can still be a doctor and then do the thing. And yes, some people leave medicine altogether and do the thing, but you also might be feeling a bit stuck and a bit like, oh, I'll never get there. But it actually is okay to complete your training before you do the thing, the yes and. It just depends on what it is you want to do. And so the timeline as well, if that can sometimes be a source of unhappiness, I guess is my point. But in time, things will unfold. And so I don't think you have to worry about that or be put off by that. Just understand that there is often, I think the most common story was that people did finish their training before they jumped. But I mean, Beck, you would be a prime example of someone who's doing it all. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I just love this conference for examples. I would have been another person at the conference this didn't come up for me at any point, but I would be another example of a person at this conference who has chosen a different path. And I happen to love my path, but just to be able to come to this conference as somebody who was undecided, undifferentiated, to have all of these different examples, me, person A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all these different examples, because it's very hard, isn't it, to kind of accept this idea that it's all going to work out and it's all going to be okay. And look, that's probably true. I'm almost 100% certain that's true, that it is going to work out and it's all going to be 100% okay, no matter what path you take. However, we know the value of seeing these people in real life, walking that talk, and how that can put you at peace with that question mark. And in doing that, empower you to move forwards and start experimenting. I had this one. So I was at the conference. Unfortunately, I missed all the keynote, the opening speakers, because I was doing in parallel. We were doing free coaching sessions. So I had 5 different people. We did 30-minute blocks, which was brilliant. People I've never met before. And so I had 5 different doctors come to me with their own unique things they wanted to get coached on. And there was this one woman who she's just been playing on my mind, because her mind is there's this part of her brain that is not stimulated by medicine. And she, of course, there's another part of her that loves the academics. She loves the people. She's a typical doctor in so many ways. And also there's this one part of her brain that isn't quite satisfied. And it's a really important part to her. In the past, she had all these examples of when she was working in those strengths in that capacity, and she just felt alive. Like that was her definition of feeling alive and feeling like she was really making a difference. And for someone like her to be able to get out of that false dichotomy of medicine or that, and realize that she can have medicine, and that will be a game changer for her. Because imagine if she believed in that dichotomy and therefore she continued down the path for the next, 10 years, however long it takes to do your specialist training and then get established as a consultant, to then go and attend to this other part of herself, or to leave that medical part of herself behind in pursuit of this other thing. What if she didn't have to pick one of them and she could have both? And this conference was just a great example for her. It was a spark. Like I saw it happen as we were talking of possibility, where she was previously shut down and felt she believed in this dichotomy. And her brain was already starting to think about new ways. And actually she left with a notebook in hand being like, I'm going to write down. She was planning to go actually out and network with people at the conference and see all these possibilities. It was actually something that she was actively getting from like 10 a.m. on Saturday. This was something that she was going out to do. So I get chills thinking about how her life trajectory might have changed, or at least been expedited in a great direction, just from that conference and from the coaching. But the resources at the conference that were at her disposal were incredible. And actually, I will just circle back to this story about our guy who's the vibe, because we love him. But so he was recommending that his kids didn't do medicine because he was in that, in the past, he was in that idea that clinical medicine alone, and he was in leadership roles and doing academic stuff, it wasn't fulfilling him, that in itself. And then when he added in this other creative side of him, when he started to integrate in all that other, I'm not going to say any other things, so I don't want to give too many details away, but the other stuff he was interested in, the other thing that sparks him, when he added that in, now, get this, guys, he's now like, oh, I would actually recommend medicine to my children right now. The gravity of that change, to recommend to your loved ones to do this career, to invest in this career or not, it was changed by him integrating that creative side back into medicine for him. That is a major turnaround from my perspective. And we would hate to lose any of our current amazing doctors because they believed in the dichotomy. They believed in the or, and they didn't have great, convincing, inspirational examples of the yes and. Not that there's anything wrong with leaving medicine completely. It's nothing wrong with that at all, and pursuing your other thing. But for a lot of us, it holds us back if we think we have to leave medicine to get started with the other stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that bigger picture stuff as well, you know, someone, Cheryl Martin actually mentioned this at the conference. She had talked about workforce and how as we go through, there could be an absolute workforce shortage. And I think people are making a lot of different decisions after COVID about their own happiness and life's too short and all the things. I think our perspectives change, which is beautiful. But I feel like as I look around, and obviously I can't speak for everyone, but I get the sense that there's a lot of people who, even in my immediate environment at work, that I see that probably do have something that they did want to do. It might be a book, or it might be, I don't know, I feel like there's something they do want to get out their system, and they might not even be in touch with it. And I can see that there's a discontent. And I feel like this, if more people gave themselves the permission, but if we also just gave each other the permission to just be who we are as doctors, I think that's quite powerful. And I think the culture is changing in that regard. And when you're at the CCIM, you can just see the beauty of it, the collapse of the hierarchy, the beautiful, curious networking, everyone building each other up, endless possibilities. And it's such a contrast from the clinical environment, but it needn't be. I feel like it needn't be. And what a superpower it would be to enhance, I guess, the workforce at large. And I'm not saying this for everyone. I know there are some doctors who just love clinical medicine and that is their superpower, and that's wonderful. But I just think that there are other people who are not represented by that ideal in medicine. And it's just, I guess, Beck and I are obviously quite passionate about this for our own personal reasons, and how we were set free by leaning into our creativity and doing the thing because we couldn't help but do it, because if we didn't do it, we'd be very unhappy, right? And I guess it's just to say these things to you that if you are sitting there as well with that similar discontent or something else, even if you don't know what it is, just giving yourself permission to explore that a bit more, to be curious about that a bit more, and dip your toes in the water when you're ready. And if you do get a chance to come to the Creative Careers in Medicine conference next year, I mean, we would highly recommend it. We had an absolute blast.
And you better come say hi to us, even if I walk past you without recognition and we're friends on social media. Or just come and dance to Christine, because she'll surely be jamming.
Well, they might
again.
not have me singing again. We don't really know. I would love to.
I just want to emphasize to finish that you don't have to have anything to prove yourself with, anything creative to prove yourself with, as Christine was saying. You don't have to have it figured out yet to join this group of people with creative careers in medicine. Come with the curiosity. I talk about this concept. This is critical to coaching, especially to my group coaching, this concept of greenhousing, where just like you put a plant in a greenhouse in its most vulnerable state, so that you can control the environment as it grows from that vulnerable place, so that you can give it all the nutrients that it needs, and so that you can protect it from its predators, all the threats in the environment. And, for so many of us, a non-judgmental, curious, celebratory space is sadly actually quite unique you know, as Christine and I were saying, it was quite striking to walk into this conference and all these conversations with people that we'd never met before and get this consistent, beautiful, open, curious, compassionate, celebratory interaction. And this conference in itself, it had that greenhouse effect. It was like you can come there with no ideas at all and start to explore them, pull them out in their most vulnerable, ugly, uncertain, even illogical and not yet viable forms, and know that the people here get it. They get what it's like to embark on something new, and they know that you have to go through this like ugly, vulnerable, and even just wrong stage. Like, this is a part of it. So you bring your self, your unfinished, unpolished self to this space and trust that there is this greenhouse effect. People will be fueling you and helping you with the curiosity and the seeing the best in you and helping mirror back your potential to you. And they'll also be protecting you from the threats, from the judgment, from the projections of fears, from our own limiting thoughts, and from our own ideas about what's a good idea or not. These people get it. This is a greenhouse. So come as you are. Don't wait any longer.
Oh my goodness, a greenhouse. I feel like that is one of the best analogies I've ever heard. CCIM is a greenhouse to nurture and protect you. Oh, I just love that. That was so good. I should also say we're not sponsored by CCIM. We just did a really good day. I think as we're talking, I'm like, I wonder if people think that, no, this is organic. We love CCIM.
I think the other thing to say is that this is the first time we've actually been to one of these events. And Christine and I we went on our journeys alone for the most part. And our collaboration with each other has been one of the most enhancing things. And then we're like, oh, wow, what's this creative careers in medicine thing over here? They're already doing it over here. Let's go and hang out with these people. So we really just wanted to make this podcast so that you're not in the dark about it, so that you know it's an option for you too, and to hopefully give you a kickstart on the most unfair advantage, the most accelerating thing that you could possibly have in a creative career in medicine, which is collaboration or just connection, just having other people around. So that was the point of this podcast. No, we're not sponsored, but we are biased.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. And thank you to the CCIM team for the beautiful experience that it was. My hat's off to them. It was just magical from start to finish. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. If there's anything else you'd like to see on future episodes, please let us know in the comments below. And otherwise, we'll see you again next week. Bye.
I've been waiting all my life for something. I've been down the darkest roads and up in the clouds, but I've always felt that something's missing. That was until I